Hello everyone. A few videos back, I mentioned and introduced the whole thing of Quant and Visa's VTAP, which is the Visa Tokenized Assets Platform. Now, in this particular video, towards the end, you will see an exclusive that took place roughly just 3 or 4 days ago that was exclusive to CNBC, interviewing a particular representative, if you will, from Visa, but the whole thing of VTAP. Now, in that interview, he will mention a particular crypto company. He won't state which one that is. More importantly, a key date, sometime last year. We will jump into why all of this is important. And if anything, smash that like if you haven't done so already. Consider sticking to the end of the outline if you choose to do so, but there are chapters for each and every one of you. If you don't have time to watch this, watch in 2x speed. Use technical resources to be put at your disposal. Here we go. First thing we're going to jump into is this particular posting from Dr. Luke Riley of the Quant Network. He's the head of innovation over at Quant. Why would I point this out? I want you guys to understand that you will see a lot of press about this particular blockchain and this project being interoperable. But is it truly interoperable? And if anything, where am I really going with this? Well, this is important for your understanding, and we'll tie this all in towards the end. As you see from Dr. Luke Riley, he says, as Jean mentioned, there are a few companies working around the interoperability space for generic data transfer. Some I've seen are Axelar, which, by the way, I think is a solid project. Stellar Network, Nomad, Wormhole. Of course, Wormhole was selected by Securitize, if I'm not mistaken, or Securency, one or the other, as their selection. And a lot of people, of course, were disappointed from the Chainlink army. Even I myself, because I hold Chainlink. But they went with Wormhole. But like it says, the point is, he believes that while we see all this, it's to focus on cross-chain swaps and not cross-chain asset bridging apart from dBridge and Allbridge. Again, think about that. Think about how many projects claim to have interoperability, but is it just cross-chain swaps and not necessarily cross-chain asset bridging? I want you guys to put some focus on that. As we jump further into this, look at this, also from Dr. Luke Riley. He goes on to mention some key things here, and if anything, some emphasis on what he mentioned in regards to what was then the ISO TC 307 plenary regarding standards. And he says, are there enough completed standards, of course, for DLT interoperability? In APA, comprehensive review of standards suggests not. In terms of upcoming technical blockchain interoperability standards, ones to watch are basically ISO TC 307's interoperability framework, which, if you're new, that's the Quant Network standard created by Gilbert Verdian back in 2015-2016. And of course, you see IETF, and you also see the whole thing of EEA. And this is something that maybe you guys just aren't aware of. So I thought I'd bring it to you. Here's the key thing. It's understanding the reference architecture, and it's understanding this whole thing of Dr. Luke Riley reviewing the EEA's draft specification and hoping that it can be more widely applicable to the, just EVM-based blockchains. While EVM-based blockchains and EVM sidechains have value because it helps scale, older blockchains like Ethereum, understand this moving forward. The key term here of drafts, okay? And that will make sense as we get more into the outline. As I take you over to here, I did share the whole thing of this Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, Distributed Ledger Technology Interoperability Technical Specification Draft version 1.0. This was just let's face it, like about a week ago, give or take, okay? So there's some people here that I think we should pay attention to. But the latest published version was called the ETH Alliance, and it was regards to cross-chain interoperability. And again, one of the editors is Weijia Zhang, a person that has their PhD doctorate, and they worked in regards to WanChain. Now, a lot of you guys don't even know what WanChain is, and that's okay. There's a lot of good projects out there that don't get any hype at all. Zero. All right. But the key contributor to this, under the EAI classification, Dr. Luke Riley of Quant. So take you over to here. Highlight says the original trial between Finality and HQLA, which I covered, was based on Enterprise Ethereum Alliance, standard for cross-chain transactions. So I take you to the next part. You will see here Canton Network, a network of networks for smart contract applications, updated January this year. Emphasis on, for example, smart contracts, and more importantly, governance and public and permissioned networks. And of course, if I take you more into this, remember how we talk about, excuse me, I got some allergies going on. Remember how we talked about the whole thing of Quant Network being the orchestrator of the RLN? Watch this, because I have mentioned the whole thing of BNY Mellon. BNY Mellon participated in what? The Canton Network pilot, and was also a Canton participant in the U.S. Regulated Liability Network, RLN pilot. Interesting. And of course, as you see, U.S. RLN Phase 1, Canton Network pilot. So take you to the next part. What do you also see here? Citi settled the first trade on the HKEX Synapse platform, uses Versana, and was a Canton participant in US RLN pilot by the FRB-NY. As you see here, US RLN Phase 1. And we take you to this. What do you also see? You see, plain as day, HSBC. I share this with you because I want to show that this is so much more than obviously just Visa, but again, the phases, again, these drafts, if you will, okay? So HSBC is, the whole thing of, Orion's asset tokenization platform. HSBC, just like what's going on with Visa, again, the tokenization platform. So HSBC was a participant in the U.S. Regulated Liability Network, piloted and run by the Federal Reserve Bank of New York and using, of course, Canton. Interesting to see that. And again, Quant Network, the orchestrator of the RLN. As I take you to another example, Visa's, let's face it, come on. When it comes to Visa, it's kind of like Coke and Pepsi, right? If you think of Visa, then you immediately think of MasterCard. They're the two juggernauts in the, in the credit card space. They have been for decades. But even MasterCard was a participant in the U.S. Regulated Liability Network, RLN, pilot run by, of course, Federal Reserve Bank of New York. And guess what? Once again, mentioned the whole thing at Canton, where the movement of funds between the Fed and interbank ledger was tested using a fully deployed Canton network. Now, you're probably wondering, where's the whole thing about Visa? That's all you care about. It's not all you care about because you want to hear more about some of these things and how it plays a bigger picture, especially if you're a QNT holder. PNC Bank, participant in the U.S. Regulated Liability Network, RLN, right? Don't need to repeat that same lingo. We have Sullivan and Cromwell LLP, same thing. U.S. RLN Phase 1, of course, SWIFT, that's worth a mention. Participant U.S. Regulated Liability Network, RLN, pilot run by the Federal Reserve Bank, New York. You get the gist. Look at this, TD Bank, same thing. Again, Canton Network, you also see that. Then you also see a New York Innovation Center at the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. I mean, obviously, right? So you see that as well. A few more examples. Truist, participant. U.S. Bank, participant. Wells Fargo, participant. And later on, I'm going to get more into the whole thing of the Wells dollar, okay? Because I rated JP Morgan. That's an actual thing, but, I got to back that up. As I take you to this, I want you to understand this. There's an event coming up in 2025, and the showcase of some of this is some big things, but again, what do you see? Unified Ledger, Quantum Leap. Again, understand the terminology. For cross-border payments, how can we achieve a seamless integration of the emergence of overlapping solutions? RLN, UDPN, by the way, interesting to see that, XC, Icebreaker, Parser into the existing cross-border payment landscape. Yeah, great question. But one person you see on the bottom is Amy Lee, head of FinTech Hub, Bank of England. And we know the Bank of England picked Quant a while ago. All right, here's the reference. Again, OMFIF, we understood that they did a collaboration, right? They selected, Stellar and also R3 to collaborate with them in regards to green tokenized bonds. So OMFIF is a big deal, but it's this summit coming up in 2025, London, England, May 20th and 21st of May, of 2025. Interesting. Okay, the next chapter in payments, digital assets. And they have these exclusives. So you see some big players here. There's a little picture here, of the whole thing, like even with Swift. But it's interesting to see some of this. And again, like the reasons to partner, who's going to shape the agendas. Again, all this call to action that I pointed out that, not just Dr. Luke Riley was talking about, but more in particular, Gilbert Verdian, okay? Final warnings and stuff like that. Testimonials. Again, why have testimonials? Because the pilots have already been finished. We've already been there. We've already done that. Nick Kerrigan, head of Swift. You see a lot of big players here. This lady on the bottom right, Lu Yan, probably not pronouncing that right, Director Innovation, Digital Currency Institute, People's Bank of China. You have Basak Toprak, Onyx by JP Morgan. We understand how Quant plays a factor into even that because of interoperability. All right, so there's all of this going on. And of course, a lot of media outlets are going to be here. But again, key part for all you guys is the very bottom. Because how can we achieve seamless integration of the emergence of overlapping solutions? Think about it, the Overledger. And it says RLN UDPN into the existing cross-border payment landscape. Boom. There's that. Now let's take you over to here. This is from Telegram. Shout out to the one and only Quant Papa for providing some of the research. What do you see here? Gilbert Verdian. Overledger Network, the OVN, is a network of networks. Again, back to the whole thing of the Canton network. So OVN is a network of networks that's bigger than Quant. It's about the ecosystem. Yes. Think about that, everybody. Let's jump to the next part. What do you see here? Again, back to the reference from Gilbert. QNT is at the core of the OVN. I don't know why people keep saying that it isn't. That the token won't be used. Of course it will be used. It's powering all the layer 2 payment channels and how gateway operators are paid. We've been working hard on this, the treasury, and removing friction for enterprise to use the OVN. Boom, back to the whole enterprise that you saw basically over where? Over here. This is where all enterprise meets up. These key dates, it's not a buy the rumor, sell the news. It's understanding what was tested, and again, the testimonials. So, thought I'd bring that to you guys. The other thing I want to bring to you guys is this. Gilbert Verdian once again. The thing is, when OVN goes live, and I know this is old, but again, this is aging well. The thing is, when Overledger Network goes live and gateways interoperate, there won't be a need for Binance. Won't be a need for Binance. Think about what he just said. Gateways can facilitate digital asset transactions across OVN for any user or enterprise. Exchanges will have their place for retail trading, and we will select regulated ones for crypto/fiat conversion. This isn't a Jasmine video, but even in my Jasmine video, Hara mentioned the whole thing in the future about the super wallet, how there won't be a need for Binance. Do you see the bigger picture? All right, a little bit more that we're going to get into. Gilbert Verdian also points out, January 7, 2021 on Telegram, Overledger Network's capabilities will allow members to transact globally with existing and new transaction rails. Again, back to everything that Dr. Luke Riley posted. If anything, back to what you're going to see here soon in regards to what Visa is going to mention. And as I take you to this next part, I want you guys to understand this. Overledger Network's capabilities will allow members to transact globally with existing and new transaction rails. Excuse me, I already mentioned that one. And as I take you to here, we see here from Gilbert Verdian again, what does it say? Plain as day, part of Overledger Network, we are at the beginning discussions of a global IT vendor to host a financial services network for all their clients to use an Overledger Network gateway, something bigger than JP Morgan's INN. Think about that. And of course, I'll play that video here in a bit. All right. And then I want to share this because here's the thing. A lot of you guys haven't seen this. This is cited from MIT Connection Science, to be exact. We understand Thomas Harjano, Quant, MIT, but look what it says. Digital, I froze it on this frame because the video doesn't have any, person talking or music or anything. But again, focus on this. Digital asset network of networks. As you see, try to picture this as in, this is the quant, the squid. Remember how we talked about that, the sentinel, right? Connecting to everything. That's literally the quant logo. If you haven't seen the video, check it out. But in the middle, you see national and regional blockchain infrastructure. You see regulated securities network. You see the whole thing of domestic capital markets. But again, regulated securities network. Might as well just call that the RLN because that's what it blossomed into. Corporate DLT network, domestic real-time payments network. Think about how Visa is going to play a role in that. Public permission blockchains. Think about what we talked about with Canton. Trade finance network. Think about the whole thing of even to like XDC and whatnot. And again, understand how this all comes together because like it says on the left, cross-network interoperability, access through ODAP GWs. And if you're not aware what ODAP basically is a cross-chain communication protocol handling multiple digital asset cross-border transactions by leveraging blockchain gateways. Think about that. So all of this is just really aging well. And like it says, network to network for private and controlled transactions. Okay. What about the whole thing of VTAP? All right, you've been waiting for this. Let's take you over to this because what you're going to see here is Visa launches tokenized platform for banks. This was posted October 4th. And just in case you didn't see the other video, Visa announced its new tokenization platform for banks called Visa Tokenized Asset Platform, which is VTAP. The goal of the new service is to let more than 15,000 banks use blockchain tech for things like tokenized deposits. CNBC's Mackenzie Segalos speaks to the payment giant head of crypto. Think about that, who is Coy Sheffield, probably not pronouncing that right, about the new product and where Visa's crypto strategy is headed. You'll hear two key things. He'll mention a particular crypto, but he won't say who it is. And then he'll mention something that happened last year. And then I'm going to connect that on the final thing. Here we go.
So you're introducing the Visa Tokenized Asset Platform. Walk me through what VTAP will do.
Yeah, so we're super excited about the announcement this week. So VTAP gives the ability for banks to issue and manage fiat-backed tokens. And so one of the things that we've seen is really the growth and excitement around stable coins, which are now at an all-time high, around 170 billion in circulation. And we talk to banks all over the world that are really interested in figuring out how can they issue their own fiat-backed products. And so we're powering a lot of these capabilities for them and excited to work closely with banks to bring new products to market.
And so why launch this platform now? Is it a product of the kinds of conversations that you were describing, as in the market indicates that this is a good idea and that there is a sufficient appetite for this?
Yeah, so we've been following this space closely for many years now. And the story and genesis behind this platform, it was actually a lot of the work that we did with central banks across the world. And so we've been involved in CBDC pilots and sandboxes in Hong Kong and in Brazil. And we really got the opportunity to start working closely with banks, helping them with technology, to be able to mint and manage these tokens. And we then decided to commercialize it and make this platform available on the Visa Developer Portal. And we've got many banks that work with us today for a range of different solutions. And as they start to enter into the blockchain space, we think Visa can help be a bridge, for banks to be able to interact with blockchains with their own tokens.
Talk about what this partnership with the banks looks like. How are you going to bring them online? What kinds of use cases do you think are going to be most relevant to them?
Yeah, so our goal is really to be the easiest way that banks can get started. And I think what we found is, many banks have been researching, they've been exploring, they've been participating in working groups, but you can only learn so much until you actually, get your hands on a product, put something out there. And so we've got the sandbox that's available that we announced this week, where banks can come in, they can start, minting, burning, transferring these tokens. And there are a range of different use cases that we're seeing banks, interested in. And it really depends on the bank. There are banks that are looking at this as really blockchains becoming a modern ledger where they can do intra-bank payments that are 24/7 between their clients. We've got banks that are interested in capital market use cases, seeing the tokenization of securities and bonds and real estate. They want a cash leg to be able to trade those assets. We've got banks looking at smart contracts and new lending possibilities. Can they automate a lot of their internal processes? And so we're excited to work closely, hand in hand with banks to help them find the use cases where fiat tokens can be meaningful for their business.
Now, what I keep hearing is that the technology involved with tokenizing assets is really the easiest part of the equation. It took PayPal something like 4 years to issue PYUSD because it was a regulatory nightmare. And this is PayPal that we're talking about. So it's not that the technology is what's preventing people from doing this. It's really the regulatory and audit piece of this. And so my question to you is Visa doing anything to solve this piece of the puzzle, perhaps help a platform or a bank with the regulatory aspect, throw Visa's weight behind them when it comes to working with digital asset regulators?
Yeah, so we've been engaging with regulators across the world, and really, we think it's important to have regulatory clarity around what are the rules for issuing a stablecoin or a tokenized deposit. And so we plan to continue doing that. However, really here the bank is the licensed issuer of the product, and so we're working very closely with the banks that we're partnering with to help them find a path to be able to test and get a product live. And we think it's not just the technology. There are also big questions around rules and standards for how these products should function. I think we've seen banks start to test and experiment with tokenized deposits and stablecoins in a very fragmented way. Banks are writing their own smart contracts. One bank's product looks very different from each other. And so I think there's a big role for Visa to play to create global standards and enable a platform where banks can issue products that can then interact with each other because they're built upon the same rules and standards, using the VTAP system.
So is VTAP just going to be within the US, or are you expanding out to other global jurisdictions?
Yeah, so the goal is for this to be a global platform. And as the technology enabler, it really comes down to working closely with banks as the regulated institutions and in markets where they're able to bring these products live. But the technology capabilities we plan to make available very broadly.
So Visa's been especially progressive on the crypto front. How are you thinking about integrating stablecoins into your card business, if at all? I would imagine that this would present some cool solutions with respect to Forex and international settlement.
Yeah, we think there are huge opportunities here. And we really started, we set up a crypto team really in the depths of the last bear market, about 5 years ago. And we really looked at a new set of fintech platforms that were building on top of crypto and stablecoins, and we wanted to give them a path to be able to issue Visa cards. And I think one of the things that we found is, as amazing as stablecoins can be, there isn't merchant acceptance. And so they can only have so much utility if you're just holding them as a store of value. You need to have a way to spend a stablecoin. And we think that linking a Visa credential to a stablecoin wallet is the best way to do that. We partner with over 50 crypto wallets and exchanges to be able to bring these products to market. And then we started to experiment with how can Visa enable clients to settle with us, using stablecoins on blockchain rails. And it's still early days, but we're seeing growing demand and interest from many of our clients that are starting to incorporate stablecoins into their corporate treasuries and looking to be able to settle directly with Visa on chain. And we think there's a huge opportunity to meet clients where they are and start to utilize these technologies to improve our core network and services.
So to your last point, Visa has been talking about accepting USDC for settlement. Has that been brought live across the board? And can you walk our viewers through what problem this is solving?
Yeah, so this is live today, in a handful of pilots, with clients on both the issuing side and the acquiring side. And it really started, when we worked with crypto companies to be able to issue cards. We found that a number of these crypto platforms, they're using stablecoins to pay their employees, stablecoins to pay their vendors, and they wanted to use stablecoins to be able to pay Visa. And so we authorize transactions, in real time, and then at the end of the day, we need to settle, with those clients. And our goal is to give more options and choice, to these clients to be able to, send us their, preferred currency on the preferred network, that they're using already. And so we launched this pilot, about a year ago. We've got a handful of partners in it, and we're seeing, really early positive signs of traction and more demand from many of our clients that we're talking to start to settle with Visa in USDC as well.
Okay. Glad to share that because I was new. Now, check this out. Because a lot of you guys are going to say, and I've been there, well, how do we really connect this to Quant? Well, for me personally, you've been following the channel for a while. We already, for the most part, been there, done that. Especially when it comes to the whole thing of, like minting and bonds. Again, check out the video a while back. I think it was about last week, give or take. Here we go. I'm going to take you over to this particular site. All right. And it's called genorma.com. It's in regards to standards. I'll pull this up on your screen. And as you can see, it mentions plain as day, new and emerging DLT blockchain use cases. This current stage is at 20. It's not at the full 100%. But the key thing is, remember that person that you saw in the interview who is referred to as Kai Sheffield, right? He mentions that this basically was done about a year ago. It started about a year ago, okay? So this says November 14, 2023. This would add up. This would be about a year ago, okay? And it says new project registered in TC/SC work program. Again, that date, November 14, 2023, originator ISO, owner ISO TC 307 blockchain distributed ledger technologies. Now you may be thinking, well, it doesn't really say Visa. You just pull up something out of thin air, Max. Well, I hear you on that, and I wouldn't do that to you. I never would do that to you. That's not my style. But what is my style is to share with you some things that simply just make sense. Like everybody wants the writing on the wall. If you do a search on Visa ISO TC 307, okay, what do you see here? It mentions this thing called Visa University about digital payments catalyst, a new standards. This was posted 7 months ago. Again, stuff flies under the radar. A new standards project has been launched at ISO TC 307 Blockchain Distributed Ledger Technologies. The project is ISO/AWI TR 24878. That's interesting to see that, right? And more importantly, when he said that some of these things are still in a pilot form. Okay, now watch this. Let's take you over to ISO.org. If you go there, it does show that new and emerging DLT blockchain use cases under development, right? Because it's still, like he mentioned in that pilot, a working group has prepared a draft. Okay, and again, linking the whole thing with Visa, with this particular new ISO standard. I try to find out more info in regards to what is this thing about 24878, but you got to keep in mind there will be other standards. And what do you see? General information under development, stage, new project registered in TC/SC work program, which is 20. Technical committee is the Quant Network Standard of ISO TC 307. And here's the life cycle. Shows us at 20, which is preparatory. Again, back to what he was saying in the video. I mean, different terminology, but it matches up. That, in my opinion, call it what you want. Call it a bombshell. Call it whatever you want to call it. But I was so glad to bring that to you guys. Because we know what we have. We know why we hold it. The research trumps FUD 110%. Simply do me a favor. You listen to the entire outline and type in to the comments Visa and I'll know that you listened to the entire outline. Thanks again for watching, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. Say goodbye to complicated setups and hello to Decent Wallet, the hassle-free solution to your digital currency needs. With just a few taps, you can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.